Hey, what's up, friends? You got Gypsy back here today, bringing you guys my finals in OUPL, going up against TDK. This is, like I said, the finals, so yeah, BBC King's in the finals. How good is that? Like, using memes the whole time, and like, yeah, we made it to finals. That's pretty hype. Um, yeah, so previous to this game, my boy Teal got locked, so that actually led to the opposing team taking the lead in the series. So if they win this game, if TDK wins, then they win the series. Otherwise, if I win, we tie and it goes into a tiebreak. So obviously the pressure's on, to win for my team. But yeah, I'm actually bringing you a team today, not built by myself, but built by a friend of mine called Darius. Very solid builder in OverUsed and Sun and Moon. And he whipped up this team. I just didn't really have time to build this week. I had a lot of stuff going on in my personal life, and had a bit of a builder's block, if I'm honest. So yeah, used this team by my boy Darius. I was pretty comfortable with it. It's a pretty fun team against what I expected TDK to bring. But he actually brought a very offensive team. You guys see there, he's got the Tapu Koko. It's looking like Healing Wish Latias hyper offense basically. This could be Assault Vest Magearna, so he doesn't just get like completely raped by Ash Ninja. Ash Ninja presses Dark Pulse once on Latias and then it just clicks Water Shuriken and basically wins, but once it gets its Evo off. But it could also be like some sort of speed control, Trick Room, or Shift Gear plus Z moves. That was something I was thinking going to the match. This could be defensive lander to help versus stuff like Pinsir and Garchomp, but you're gonna see he's actually just packing like all offense. So yeah, pretty intense team. But I'm just gonna lead off with my Rachi turn 1. Just in case you wanted to lead off with Koko, I could get a nice Iron Head off, get some scout the damage if potentially get a flinch turn 1, but I'm also getting the U-turn off on the potential lead Gren if he's like Ash Ninja. I could get the U-turn off, go out into my Clef or my Zygarde because I am really Spidef. But he's actually going to lead with Lando here, and I don't want to risk him being Helmet. I don't want to reveal the fact that I am Scarf because Spidef Rachi is pretty solid, like pretty common in this meta to check stuff like Lele and Magearna. So if I am like a Spidef variant, I'm not staying in here and risking dying to the Earthquake. So I'm just going to switch out here just to kind of bluff that I am not Scarfed. I had no real reason to go for U-turn here. Like the only benefit that going for U-turn here gave me was scouting if he was Rocky Helmet or not. If he wasn't Rocky Helmet, I could also scout the U-turn damage to determine if he was defensive set, which could potentially allow me to switch in to a better response. If he's offensive, I'm obviously not really going to want to go out into something like my Clef to just get blown back by like an Earth Plate or a Z move from this Lando. But if he's defensive, then I can play accordingly. But I am going to make the switch out here. Going to go out into my Celesteela this turn. I think I do go into my Celesteela as he's just going to click rocks here. Now this turn I am going to go for Heavy Slam. I don't expect him to stay in with his Lando, and even if he does, that does tell me a lot of information about his set. He may have been smacked down, but realistically I felt like he was going to switch there. He makes the offensive switch out into Koko, as I'm going to get a Heavy Slam off. This does a lot to this Koko, and right here, I could have gone for Protect with my Celesteela to just kind of scout what this Koko wanted to do, but I was pretty concerned about him potentially being Calm Mind or Roost. That could have been pretty annoying, so I felt like going out to Rachi was my play there. He also could have just gone straight for the HPI, so the Dazzling Gleam, predicting my Latios and my Zygarde to come in on the electric move, but I felt like Jirachi covered both him going for that play. Like I do in an electric attack if I need to, like I can take it, if he's like Magnet or something like that, but I felt like, like it's early, he's not really in a position where he necessarily needs to make the aggressive Zygarde read because he does have Landorus in the back, which could well be defensive. So I guess this was kind of like a bit short-sighted on my behalf, but I'm going to go into Rachi here, just expecting him to make that aggressive play, because with offense like this, if you make those aggressive plays, you can put yourself in a fantastic position. Like if he weakens his Zygarde, then his Magearna can just win essentially, because this team, if Zard isn't Megad, like if Magearna comes in before Zard's in and manages to get up speed, and I can't defog the rocks away, then his Zard can really, his Magearna can just really win the game. So I'm going to switch into Rachi here as he actually fires off the Volt Switch, and this does 72, so that is a Choice Specs Tapu Koko. Very interesting set, like pretty cool innovation. Haven't seen specs like all gens, so that's pretty cool. Pretty cool build. As he's going to bring in his own Scarf Ninja. I go for U-turn here just to gauge some important info. If he's Scarf Ninja, then he's essentially walled by my Clef, and it's going to be a lot easier for my Zygarde to set up if he's like locked into something like Low Kick or even like Dark Pulse, because I'm Spidef. But he is going to go for U-turn, outspeeding my Rachi, and going to take me out here, which is pretty unfortunate. So Rachi's done nothing this game, and he's just died, but he has given me some vital information off on this ninja. Good to know, as he is going to go out this turn out into his Tapu Koko. I'm going to go back into my Celesteela here just to scout for the just to scout what move he wants to lock himself into. I know from the damage that he's definitely specs, so I don't really lose too much by scouting here, making the switch out to Zygarde if he does want to lock himself into an electric move. Alright, so here I am just going to scout out with a Protect, as he does go for the Volt Switch this turn, so I'm pretty free to just go out to my Zygarde. Like, he could make the play here of going out into his Mamoswine, you know, predicting my Zygarde, but he doesn't really need to, in my opinion. Like, he has Landorus in the back, which he can switch to. You know, I've revealed lefties, so I'm obviously not bounded. Not too much of an immediate offensive threat. This turn I'm going to double to my Latios as he goes out to his Mamoswine. This was an interesting play, like, because I'm not bounded, like Zygarde can't Oko or probably even 2-K the Mamoswine, because Zygarde's pretty weak, honestly, like without a band and like adamant nature. So I'm gonna go out to my Latios, and you know, TDK thinks he's got me here. He's like, yeah, you know, chat's going wild. Oh my god, is TDK human? I'm gonna whip out the Z move and blow this Mamo back. So yeah, that's one thread gone. But you see the Tapu Koko is gonna come back in here. Now this is a 50-50 of sorts. Again, like he doesn't. I could have switched in my Clef here on a potential Dazzling Gleam. I take under half and I can roost up on it, but I need Clef healthy because his Greninja is a huge threat to my team. With Ice Beam and potentially Rock Slide, like Ice Beam the Zygarde, Rock Slide the Zydex after Rocks if I can't defog. Clef is like one of my best responses to it, and Clef can also T-Wave stuff like his Lati, his Greninja, and Magearna. I need to keep Clef healthy if possible. Basically I felt as though here he would just go for Volt Switch. Again, if I have my Zygarde in the back that I can just switch out to, he can just go out into Landorus the next turn. And you know, soak up anything I want to do, even if he's an offensive set, because of Intimidate and the fact that I'm lefties. If he goes for Dazzling Gleam here and I go into my Clefable here, or my Celesteela, he loses a shit ton of momentum. I get a Heavy Slam off again on something, or just get a free leech off. But he's going to go for the Dazzling Gleam. He's going to win the 50-50, as Latios is going to go down here, which means Rocks is going to stay up. It's unfortunate, like, it was a bit of a gamble there, like it was a 50-50 as I said, and I took the risk and it just didn't pay off. So, you know, those things happen. So I'm going to go into my Celesteela here one more time and click Heavy Slam, as he's going to go out into his Landorus. Now, I don't see an item from Landorus, and that is definitely offensive damage. So I feel as though this turn he's either going to SD or he's going to just click Smackdown. So I'm going to go for Leech Seed just to scout out what he wants to do. But he does click Explosion. So this is, yeah, I click Leech there. So that was like a, yeah, it's a cool tech. Like you don't see Explosion much on Landorus, like very rarely. Like probably like 1 out of like 30 Landoruses have Explosion. Like, but it's an offensive team. I can get it. Like it weakens stuff like Celesteela for, you know, Magearna to just come in and blow back with Thunderbolt or Z Thunderbolt. So yeah, I can definitely like I can understand like the set, but yeah, wasn't really expecting that, as Celesteela is going to take a decent chunk from Explosion, actually putting it in range of an electric terrain boosted T-Bolt. Magearna's going to come in here. I'm going to scout with Protect just in case he does want to fire it off, because if I get a Leech Seed off, or if I just click Heavy Slam, I can start wearing this thing down. He's actually going to make a really good play here and go for Shift Gear, so TDK making the good reads, as I'm going to switch out to Clefable here as he does click Carmine. So if I got a Leech Seed off on that first turn, I could have Carmined, I could have Heavy Slammed the next turn, and done a huge chunk of damage to this Magearna, even though I was intimidated. And I could have then proceeded to start protecting, you know, pivoting into Clef on the Thunderbolts, even Zygarde. Would have created some pretty, you know, nice situations there, probably in my favor with T-Bolt and Ice Beam. But I do play quite passively around this Magearna because I really was fearing the Z Thunderbolt, as Clefable is going to come in here. I'm just going to click T-Wave on Magearna because that is kind of my best hope here. I need to outspeed, get the outspeed on Magearna with my Zydex. That's the reason I do click T-Wave, as I'm going to go out to my Celesteela. He's going to get parried here, and yeah, he gets parried. So I'm just going to, I think this turn I do click Leech Seed, as he does freeze me. I thought, thankfully, turn 1. So yeah, pretty wild game. This turn I really should have clicked Heavy Slam again. I do play quite passively around this Magearna. I am very fearful of taking the T-Bolt or the Z T-Bolt there. I did want to get out of range of health where his +1 Magearna couldn't take me out with Thunderbolt, so that's why I did protect there. I know this turn I can actually live a hit, but I'm actually going to switch out to my Zygarde, predicting him to go for T-Bolt, which he does this turn, so this is nice. I put him in a position where he needs to fear me, he needs to respect me being a fast Zygarde. Funny thing is I'm actually slower than this Zygarde is like 0 speed, so if he is max speed timid Magearna, because he has a shift gear up, that cancels out the para speed drop, so he actually does outspeed my Zygarde, so funnily enough he would be able to take me out here with an Ice Beam. But he doesn't know that yet, so I'm going to click, I believe this turn I do double out to my Zard. I doubled out to my Zard in case he wanted to, this was kind of a weird play, but I felt like he might want to click Ice Beam there just to scout, and if he did make that play, my Zard does live, because I did put a lot, I changed the Zard spread a bit, I put a lot of EVs into health, so I do actually live an Ice Beam from a +1 Magearna, and I can get the Leech Seed recovery and then Mega Evolve and get the outspeed the next turn, but he does go out to his Gren, and here I can just Mega Evolve and click Flare Blitz. Now, I click Flare Blitz because if he stayed in, he died to a Dragon Claw, because I am adamant. If he switched out to Latios, he died to a Dragon Claw and he lost his Healing Wisher, which means Clef can actually kind of beat this Magearna because it is really low, and Zygarde can, after Zygarde gets a hit off, or it takes another Heavy Slam from Celesteela. Alright, so he's going to U-turn out, he's going to go out into his Latios here. Very questionable play, because had I clicked Dragon Claw, which made sense versus a Greninja, his Latios would have just died. He would have lost his Healing Wisher, as I just said, but he does make the nice Flare Blitz read there, I guess that's what he was predicting. He just didn't want to sack off Coco. I felt like Coco was the sack to make there, because now, like, he's weakened my team considerably with his Coco already. Now, like, his Coco can't OHKO my Zygarde because I'm so Spit F. Clef takes a hit from this range of health unless it's T-Bolt. Like, it takes a Dazzling Gleam, and I don't know, I felt like Magearna plus Greninja could wrap this game up for him, but he does choose to preserve his Coco here and just go into Lati, which, worked out for him in hindsight. So this turn I'm going to be forced out. I'm going to keep Zard as a sack, because I can sack it off versus the Magearna to get a switch into Zygarde later on, as he's going to go for Psychic here and do a nice chunk to Celesteela. This turn I should have clicked Leech Seed, like, kind of, but I just go for Heavy Slam here. Had I clicked Leech Seed there, I would have gotten more health back on Celesteela, but I did feel as though he'd make the play of switching again into his Tapu Koko, predicting my Leech Seed, and then being able to make a double or just get huge damage off with T-Bolt. But he does make the play of going out to Greninja here. Yeah, I get damage off on heavy slam damage off on the Greninja, which is nice because this puts it closer and closer in range of dying to Zygarde's 1,000 arrows, which is pretty solid. But Leech Seed would have, given me a lot more health back on Celesteela, which would have been really appreciated late game. He's going to go for Low Kick here. I can't stay in with Celesteela because Low Kick does, if he's max attack, this actually just takes me out because I'm specially defensive, and Celesteela is the heaviest one in the game, so Low Kick does a huge amount of damage. So I'm going to switch out into my Clefable here to chew the Low Kick, and this turn I believe I do go for the Soft Boiled. No, I go for Moonblast here, getting ahead of myself. Does 16 to Magearna, and I get the Spit F drop. So, like, I could really stay in here with Clef, whittle down this Magearna. That's definitely a play I could make, and that's probably a play I should have made because that was doing 16 every time, so it would have been like a 4 KO from that range of health, but he does have Calm Mind, which would slow that down quite a bit. I'm going to go for Stealth Rocks here to whittle down the Greninja every time it comes in, putting it closer in range of my Zygarde's 1,000 arrows, because that is the way I win, basically. But his Magearna is going to start Calm Minding up here. I'm going to switch out into my Charizard X just to sack it off, which puts me in a situation where I can now bring in my Zygarde to click 1,000 arrows, and something is going to die here, unless he brings in his Greninja and I get a lowish roll. So 1,000 arrows does a chunk, but we miss out on the kill on his Greninja, which is unfortunate, and I know he's going to have Ice Beam, so I'm going to switch out right here. Going to go out to my Clef on the Ice Beam, and we chew that up because he's Scarf, and Scarf is weak. And so now I can just heal up with the Soft Boil. He goes down to his Tapu Koko here, which was a very questionable play, in my opinion, because doing that, like, basically like there, had I clicked Moonblast, he would have lost his Tapu Koko. Greninja dies to rocks, so unless Lati wanted to waste a turn defogging, Greninja was dead too, which would have forced in his Latios to Healing Wish up my Magearna, his Magearna, which I then could have T-waved and gone out to Zygarde and clicked 1,000 arrows versus. But he does make the risky play. Like he made a few plays in this game that I don't really agree with, but they worked out for him. As here, my best play is to just go for Soft Boiled. If he wants to click 1,000 arrows, then if he wants to click T-Bolt, then I do have the Zygarde in the back to go out to. Clef will take upwards of sort of 70 from Thunderbolt because it's so strong because he specs and it's in electric terrain. But I can, softball that damage off. He's going to go for Gleam here, which does 46. So had I switched into Clef earlier on the laddie, I would have been able to easily take that. But he's going to sack off the Greninja this turn as I go for Moonblast. And now Magearna's going to come back out. Again, could have stayed in here and gone for Moonblast to whittle him down, but I did expect him this turn to, just go for the Carmine there and start setting up in my Clefable's face. If he Carmined and then pressed Shift Gear, then he won the game there, so I needed to make the aggressive play out to Zygarde. I say that because, again, Magearna is probably faster than my Zygarde, so I'm going to go to Zygarde here. I didn't expect to click Ice Beam there either. As he makes a double out to Tapu Koko, interesting play. Here was another situation where I could have preserved my Zygarde, and I knew that my my Zygarde lived to hit from the Tapu Koko, and I knew that I lived to Dazzling Gleam, so I was happy to stay in. But realistically, I probably should have gone out to Clef this turn, scattered what he wanted to lock himself into, and then switched accordingly because we took 46 from the 1,000 arrows, which was pretty fine. Like we got lefties, we can softball that up, but I do stay in here with 1,000 arrows and take him out. Unfortunately, now I'm definitely in range of a Ice Beam from Magearna, obviously, so it's kind of game over at this point. Like, his Latios could take me out here with, if he's not choice locked, but I think he is choice scarfed, so he's just going to click Healing Wish here. Had I coiled, I was outsped by Magearna when it came in, because Healing Wish removes its power, so unless I had Dragon Dance, there was no way I was winning at this point. Going to switch out to Clef because I know that this gives me the best chance I have to win at this point with Para on this Magearna. If I can get lucky with T-Wave, I can potentially kill him with Zygarde, or at least get 1,000 arrow hit off in order for my Celesteela to take him out. But he's going to Carmine up this turn. He's going to outspeed, so yeah, my suspicions were confirmed. This was definitely max speed Magearna, as Zygarde did underspeed it, even with the Para after a Shift Gear. Now Celesteela is going to drop to a T-Bolt, and Clef is going to get blown back with a Gigavolt Havoc. So that was my finals game. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring it back, bring back the series for my team, the BBC Kings. We had a really fun run though. Like, I feel like yeah, it was definitely a fun experience. Definitely some questionable plays by my opponent. Don't agree with all the plays he made, but it worked out for him. So I can't really say too much about that. I did play kind of passively with my Celesteela. I definitely should have made a few more aggressive Leech Seed plays. Should have played more aggressively around the Magearna at first with my Celesteela, because realistically Magearna was his Wincon, and he probably wasn't going to risk it that early in the first encounter versus Celesteela. So yeah, I definitely should have played more aggressively. Should have got a leech off. Should have done some damage with Heavy Slam, which would have allowed Clef to actually beat it later on in the game with the Moonblast. Moonblast is doing like 17%, so yeah, that was definitely on me. But it was a fun game. It was a very poor matchup as well. This team doesn't deal too well with Hyper Offense plus Magearna. It's just like Magearna's a big threat to this team. Even if it didn't have the Ice Beam, if it had like Flash Cannon coverage, it would have still been a pretty similar result. If it was played the same way, because I wasn't able to remove rocks from my team, so Zard was immensely pressured like that. And yeah, it just didn't match up too well against the offensive team he brought. But it was still a fun one, and I hope you guys enjoyed. That was it for OUPL, unfortunately. Like I said, great experience. Got to meet a good bunch of people, and yeah, we all had good fun using pretty innovative teams. I know some of the guys brought like Matty Brolic cream teams in finals, like Specs, normal Charizard, Y and Sun, just like blew one of our opponents back. So that was pretty great to see. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I'll catch you guys next time. Leave a like if you did, and let me know what you guys thought in the comments.